Black people worked too hard to become Black Americans in this society, and we were slaves here. And we did a lot of free work.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans own slaves?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and
I'm not.
And it makes sense to me that someone like Jillian Michaels would say something like this. She is from a reality TV show. She's known for the show The Biggest Loser. It was a show where they would bring on people who were overweight, struggling with image and everything, and they would help them lose weight by making them do slavery.
Y'all, Katt Williams just went off on Jillian Michaels, and the receipts are unbelievable.
Aren't you ready to get this racism past us? Like, no white person in here has ever had a slave a day in your life. Don't you want to get this the off of you? Pay those mother reparations.
So, you know how Jillian went on CNN to downplay slavery and claimed, "We just need to stop talking about it because less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?" Well, Katt is now asking why it's acceptable to tell Black people to forget slavery, but certain other groups are never told to get over it. When it comes to their historical trauma, Black people are expected to move on from centuries of brutal oppression, slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, mass incarceration, and ongoing police violence. Yet other groups receive official remembrance days, museums, school curriculum, government-funded research, and countless Hollywood films. And if you dare to question any of this, your career could be over, especially in the entertainment industry. Meanwhile, Jillian Michaels can go on national TV and claim slavery wasn't that bad because only 2% of white people were slave owners, a statement that's factually incorrect. Now, as you know, Katt doesn't just tell jokes. He delivers lessons. And this time, he brought receipts to completely dismantle Jillian's persona.
So I'm not allowed to then come back the next day and apologize. That's for the Tracy Morgans of the world. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. Don't come here talking to sons of slaves about that.
So Katt Williams just went off on Jillian Michaels, and he did not hold back. From the moment he responded to her CNN comments, it was clear he wasn't here to play nice. And he didn't just call out Jillian for downplaying slavery. He went after the entire notion that white people get offended when they're called racist. Katt's point was simple. If white people are truly upset about being labeled racist, maybe that energy should go toward fixing the problem, like paying reparations for centuries of stolen labor, land, and wealth.
White friend, don't you want to get slavery behind you? You ain't never had a slave in your mother life. Get this past you. You pay them reparations, racism is dead. Get it past you, white friends.
Then Katt got more serious and said, "There's a darker reason people like Jillian want you to stop talking about slavery." He explained, "The push to make Black people forget. Slavery is all about controlling the narrative. They want the story to sound like slavery ended because of white generosity, when in reality, it ended because enslaved Black people, especially Black women, fought, resisted, survived, and reclaimed their own freedom."
They don't even talk about slavery in America, you know why? Because they don't want to give no credit to the people that got Black people out of slavery in the first place. They don't want them to get no shine. So they erased it from history. But I'll say it right here in front of the world. Black women got Black people out of slavery in America. That's the facts. As a group, Black women did that.
And that's the part they don't want you to see. The rebellions, the escapes, and the leadership of the women and men who organized, resisted, and survived against impossible odds. So when Jillian defends Trump for wanting to remove slavery exhibits from museums, she's essentially saying we should rewrite history. And if you have a problem with it, you just need to get over it. In case you missed it, that entire conversation on CNN started after Trump declared war on the Smithsonian and other institutions because, in his words, they focused too much on how bad slavery was. Here's what Trump wrote on Truth Social. "The museums throughout Washington, but all over the country, are essentially the last remaining segment of woke. The Smithsonian is out of control. where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen. I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. Meanwhile, the White House even published a list on its official website of exhibitions they want removed for focusing too much on race. Trump has already signed an executive order directing places like the Smithsonian to get rid of those exhibits because, according to him, they make the country look bad. So when Jillian defends this kind of thinking, what she's really saying is, we should rewrite history to make it look like slavery wasn't that big of a deal, and only a tiny percentage of white people were involved.
He's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not?
He's not. No.
Okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you
can't tie slavery.
Let's talk about the fact.
I mean,
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know who
was
the first race to try to end slavery?
Wait a second.
Well, what's controversial?
First off, the conversation was specifically about American slavery. So Jillian's argument is nothing but gaslighting. And let's clear this up once and for all, because her claim that other races had slaves too only sounds smart if you don't think about it for more than 2 seconds. Yes, slavery has existed in many cultures throughout history, but American slavery was unique in several crucial ways. For one, it was explicitly based on skin color. In other societies, people were enslaved for reasons like war captivity, debt, or punishment, and many could eventually buy their freedom or work their way out. In the United States, if you were Black, you were enslaved for life. Not just you, your children and your children's children. That's what's known as chattel slavery, where human beings are treated as property, passed down like furniture. And no other modern system industrialized slavery by skin color the way America did.
American chattel slavery was unlike any other system of enslavement in history due to its permanence, racialization, and extreme dehumanization. Unlike ancient slavery, where individuals could sometimes earn their freedom, marry into society, or hold status, American slavery was hereditary. Children born to enslaved mothers were enslaved for life, with no legal pathway to freedom. This system was codified into law, ensuring that Black people were permanently seen as property, not individuals with rights. And while some point out that Africans participated in the slave trade by selling captives to Europeans, it is crucial to recognize that the system that they contributed to was vastly different from the chattel slavery that emerged in the Americas. African societies engaged in slavery as a byproduct of war or debt, often with opportunities for eventual freedom. What Europeans created was industrialized systems that permanently dehumanized an entire race with no possibility of liberation or dignity.
And American slavery wasn't just cultural, it was written into the law of the land. From the Constitution's 3/5 compromise to the Fugitive Slave Act, the US government explicitly protected white supremacy and the ownership of Black people.
Couldn't have built the biggest economy in the world without us.
Right.
It was actually built because of us.
This is true.
The largest reverse transfer of wealth, arguably in world history and modern history, is Black slavery. That's not me making an emotional statement. I'm not throwing darts.
It's a fact.
It's a fact.
Right.
I love math because it doesn't have an opinion.
Right.
And the fact is, we're the largest economy in the world. The fact is, the first millionaire in America came from cotton, financing it out of New York City.
Right.
The fact is that Black slaves were worth more than railroads. Our railroads were arguably the most valuable asset in
Right.
the 19th and part of the 20th century. Blacks were worth twice that. The fact is that we worked for free for 270 some odd years. Nothing better than free labor. And the fact is that we couldn't create we couldn't create assets because we were assets. Bought, trade, insured, finance, underwritten. We were literally, whether if you're a bank, if you're a finance company, if you're an insurance company, if you were a trading company, I mean, 1 out of 5 people in the world at a certain point in the 1800s were involved or connected to cotton. Well, where did cotton come from? In the world. It came from us.
Right.
So when Jillian says, stop blaming white people, she's ignoring the fact that the very roads, universities, and corporations that made America great were literally funded by profits from slave labor. Even poor white folks who couldn't afford slaves still benefited. They weren't chained, whipped, or sold away from their children. They could vote, own land, get jobs, and walk freely without a slave catcher demanding papers. That safety and status existed only because black people were dehumanized. So no, they may not have technically owned slaves, but they were still on the winning team. And that wealth never disappeared. When slavery ended, the profits didn't vanish. Plantation families kept their land. Banks that financed slavery kept their money. Insurance companies that insured slaves kept their premiums. That generational wealth is still circulating today. Meanwhile, black families started from zero or less than zero because they were denied land and opportunity by law. And whenever black Americans did manage to build something for themselves, the system came in and burned it down. Remember Black Wall Street in Tulsa? In the early 1900s, black people built their own banks, businesses, and a thriving community. They proved they didn't need handouts. They were building wealth on their own terms. And what happened in 1921? White mobs backed by police and government bombed it from the sky and burned it to the ground. Hundreds were killed, thousands left homeless, and millions in black wealth were wiped out overnight. Now, with Trump declaring war on museums and rewriting school curriculums, you can expect this history to be memory hold. And that's why Jillian defending Trump by saying, "Don't blame white people," isn't just wrong, it's insulting. America didn't become America in spite of slavery. America became America because of slavery. But Trump says we should stop talking about it because it makes America look bad. Let's be real. When he says make America great again, the again isn't about prosperity and equality. It's about the time when white people had unchecked power, when segregation was law, and yes, when slavery itself made America rich. That's the greatness they want back. And that's exactly what Katt pointed out. He said, this whole forget slavery talk is really a distraction tactic. The agenda isn't just to erase the conversation. The agenda is to make sure black people never unite around the truth of it. Because unity means power, and power means you can't be controlled, can't be manipulated, and can't be sold the same lie twice.
If you had the ability to control the black people on this planet, there isn't anything that you couldn't take, dismantle, destroy, or interrupt if you could mobilize black people. And so part of the ops agenda, a part of their modus operandi, is to find out which one of you is a potential leader. And if you are, then we begin a work of progress on your life, which will make people get off of that. It's a part of it, as much as in any defense, you trying to figure out which way this dude is likely to go so I can rip that ball. It's the same. You probably wonder, why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? You would think if you didn't like something, why would you be paying attention to it? I don't pay attention to things I don't like. The liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer is over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still gonna be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chopped those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nose, it can only be. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part? Nobody wanted to knock an eye off or take an ear off or no chins missing. No, just the nose. Because it's a brand.
But here's another part that makes Jillian's comments even more disturbing. This is a woman who is literally raising a black child. And yet, she went on record saying white supremacy isn't the problem in America. Instead, she claimed the real issue is black degeneracy. And yes, those were her exact words.
We constantly talk about white supremacy, but we look the other way with black degeneracy.
Imagine adopting a black daughter from Haiti, then publicly using terms like black degeneracy. That's not just hypocritical, it's evil. Because how do you look your own daughter in the face and tell her the real issue in this country is the so-called degeneracy of her race? That's insane. And that's why Jillian is now being dragged across social media. Some people are even saying someone needs to check on her daughter, because if this is the kind of language she's comfortable using in public, who knows what she's saying inside her own home? Now people are asking, how safe is it for a black child from Haiti, of all places, to be raised by a woman who doesn't even believe slavery was that bad? One user on X wrote, Jillian Michaels' daughter is probably traumatized living with a mother who thinks black people are responsible for their own oppression. Another added, Jillian Michaels is the perfect example of, I can't be racist. I have a black child. Only God knows what these children really go through behind the scenes, and what some of these celebrities' real intentions are when they adopt them.